Ladies and gentlemen, this is an update on Robert Fuller's investigation of his lynching death. The police did just what we thought they would do, declare it a suicide. I knew they were going to do this. This is what they declared immediately. Okay. And this is what they're declaring now. It should be of no surprise to anybody. This is what they do with any Black man, woman that is found hanging. It's automatically a suicide. So, there's no investigation. And that's what they're trying to avoid altogether, any type of investigation. So this is NPR, July 9th, 2020. The death of Robert Fuller, who was found hanging from a tree, ruled suicide. A 24-year-old Black man was found hanging from a tree in a park in Southern California last month, died by suicide, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office said Thursday. Robert Fuller's death was initially ruled a suicide, but that conclusion outraged the family, who insisted that he would not take his own life, and I don't believe he would either. Locals, too, were skeptical, citing the area's troubled racial history. Thousands of people turned out in Palmdale in the days after Fuller's death to demand an independent investigation by the California Attorney General into what many believe was a lynching, and I still believe that. An attorney for the family said he would make a statement or hold a news conference later, according to the Associated Press. Fuller's death occurred against a backdrop of the police killing of George Floyd. As many Black Lives Matter protests ramped up, the situation was further inflamed days after Fuller's death, when his half-brother, his half-brother was killed, but that has nothing to do with him. You know how they always do. If they can't find dirt on the victim, then they try to find dirt on the victim's family. And then every time they tell the story, they're going to tie that relative that has nothing to do with this in because, there was some crime that this relative committed. So what? So what? Robert Fuller didn't do it. So what are you incorporating it into the story for? So, ladies and gentlemen, on Thursday, authorities said they pored over the evidence and determined that Fuller's death was consistent with a suicide and that a number of factors had led them to rule out other possibilities. Well, my question is, how come every Black man or woman found hanging in America is always a suicide, according to the high IQ police? Not one is a crime? Every single one is a suicide? Every one, huh? I hope y'all know no one believes you. Okay, Fuller had a history of mental illness, and there were prior reports of suicidal. I don't want to hear all of this. How come nobody was saying this about Fuller before? How come his family wasn't saying this about him? Yeah, I guess, ladies and gentlemen, we're to believe that every Black man that's found hanging, it just jumped up in a tree and just gave up on life. That's what they did. Okay, so investigators concluded that Fuller appeared to have purchased a rope he was found hanging from. Detectives identified a purchase from a local Dollar Tree made on May 14th, 2020, in which a red rope consistent with one used in hanging was purchased with a card registered to Mr. Fuller, Mark said. Fuller's body was found. Okay, so we know he was found in Palmdale, a passerby, on June 10th at around 3:30 a.m. That's when his body was found and paramedics were called. Now, they said he was taller than the tree he was hanging on. He was taller than the tree he was hanging from. So you mean to tell me he made this rope purchase in May and then he waited a whole month, practically June 10th, and he decided to hang himself with that rope? Uh-huh. Okay, so the LA fire chief, Daryl Osby, and two paramedics were called to the scene, and Fuller was soon declared dead. So they said the rope was around his neck between branches in more than one spot, accessible only up to the tree, indicating that the victim was not hoisted into that position, Mark said. He said there was no evidence of a ladder or chair, and that tree was easily climbable by someone of Mr. Fuller's age and physical stature. There was no signs of struggle, no defensive wounds observed, no other signs of trauma visible to Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller's hands were not bound. There was no signs that he attempted to remove, the noose from his neck. The investigators observed several prominent linear scars on Mr. Fuller's wrist, consistent with suicidal attempt. Okay, I don't know if y'all, please help me out. Do you believe these cops? I'm just saying, do you believe the cops with the reputation that they have with us from the plantation days all the way up until now? Do you believe the cops? Okay. Okay, so Fuller's death came weeks after the body of Malcolm Harsh, 38, found hanging from a tree in the city of Victorville, California, about 50 miles from Palmdale. His death ruled a suicide. In the case of Harsh, authorities obtained surveillance video from a vacant building nearby where his body was found and confirmed the absence of foul play, according to San Bernardino Sheriff's Department. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have that one video of, you remember the black man that was in the woods and they made an attempt to lynch him? If he was lynched, a group of high IQ people were out in the woods and they were attempting to lynch this man, and it was filmed. It was filmed. So it was really revealed how it was done. Take you somewhere, no cameras around, put you up in a tree, authorities come. Oh, that's a suicide. They attempted to lynch that man, and the whole thing was videotaped. But you can best believe if they would have pulled that off without being seen, you can best believe it would have been declared a suicide. That was the only one that we seen that got filmed. Y'all, please tell me what you think. I'm still not believing Robert killed himself. I'm just not. And I also don't believe that Malcolm Harsh killed himself. I don't believe all these black men are killing themselves like that. I'm not believing it, y'all. But please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.